What in the world happened with Peyton Falzone's flip? Let's get to the bottom of it.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into this special crossover edition of Locked On Auburn and Locked On Nittany Lions. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby of Locked On Auburn. Zach Seyko, also your host of Locked On Nittany Lions. And it's weird how many crossovers we've been able to do over the last year or so, Zach Seyko. But obviously news just kind of appearing out of thin air yesterday from both sides, both of our perspectives. We hopped on the phone afterwards and we're like, yeah, didn't see this coming. Didn't see this coming. Of course, 4-star quarterback Peyton Falzone flips from Penn State to Auburn. Your initial reaction was what, Zach?
Yeah, completely caught off guard. I got a call from you. I got a text from Brian. And then I checked social media and it's, oh, this is what happened. I thought it was a commitment or something else. No, it was, in fact, the flip to Auburn of all places, because we don't really have these many recruiting battles here. So,
Alvin Henderson, now Peyton Falzone. Very odd to have this happen back-to-back years. Very strange.
Yeah, and it's because Alvin Henderson should have never left Alabama to commit to Penn State. This one's a little more strange because I don't know. Let's call this what this is, because you were caught off guard. I was caught off guard. It's not just us. It was the entire Auburn, Penn State media stratosphere. Peyton Falzone had no connections to Auburn before this commitment. So I got to imagine that this was very motivated by NIL.
You got to think. I mean, for it to happen that quickly and that just, under the radar, you got to think NIL was certainly part of it. Auburn offered him on June 2nd. And when that happened, Auburn has been pursuing they pursued multiple quarterbacks, but the two main ones that they had traction with, Travis Burgess, who's a 3-star guy, but he is trending up a ton. They lost out on him to North Carolina. And then Landon Duckworth, who's an elite guy in the state of Alabama, plays at Jackson. He's had, a lot of big schools going after him, and NIL seems to be a massive part of his recruitment. And he kind of cut out Ole Miss and a few others, and he said Auburn and South Carolina were their top two. And I've been saying on Locked on Auburn, like, I still feel like it's South Carolina. He was committed to South Carolina previously, and it seemed like he was trending back to that. And so then the next question is like, okay, it's great that you're getting second for all these guys, but like, where do you turn? Because that's where you've put all of this effort in. And so when Auburn offered him on June 2nd, you saw a lot of people say like, okay, they must not feel good about Landon Duckworth. Is this potentially the next guy? But like, that was it. Like, it died really, really quick because there would have been opportunities for him to take official visits. And if he did do that, it was not reported for anything that I can see. So it's super interesting to see how quick this happened on a Thursday afternoon.
Well, it was quick. It was merely a phone call or whatever, a FaceTime, right?
It had to be more than that, though, right? Like,
he was at Penn State. He was visiting and camping with Penn State.
I mean, surely though, this was more than one call, right? I mean, this is an in-state kid.
It was 2 calls.
I mean, I don't know. We've heard, crazier things. It's just, what was the talk about him when he committed to Penn State? Because he's the second quarterback to commit in this class to Penn State. Is that correct?
He was so originally Penn State was recruiting him as a tight end.
Okay.
And yes, he ultimately became the second quarterback. Troy Hune is California QB that was committed to Penn State. And then Falzone was back and forth between, there was leverage to Iowa. There were rumors to Utah, and that he was originally committed to Virginia Tech. This is actually his third school. This is actually his third commitment. He was committed to Virginia Tech, decommitted. And then Penn State started to push and say, hey, we really want you as a tight end. Then he started to gain some momentum at different camps, different outings that, okay, he is, because he always said, I want to be a quarterback. I want to hold out and be a quarterback. And Penn State said, well, when you change your mind and we'll take you as a tight end. Okay. But then couple practice, those camps, those showcases later, Penn State's, all right, we're pushing and getting him as a second QB. We want him. And Penn State's intentions were to get a second QB in some capacity. They just didn't know it was him. And then they get him. He's in the fold. They have 2 top 15 quarterbacks. And I think Auburn kind of said, well, that's not going to stand in this day and age. Like there was a window.
It makes sense. It's kind of low hanging fruit. It's like, yeah, let's try it.
There was a window of opportunity to go in and take a quarterback that was the second QB. So that was the promise. It wasn't about, oh, we'll make you, because the discrepancy was, well, Penn State really wanted him as a tight end. They never wanted him as a QB. I asked around. They absolutely wanted him as a quarterback. Whether that evaluation, how that evaluation was going, they still wanted him as a QB. But I think Auburn could make the promise that he was going to be the only QB as opposed to the second one.
Yeah. What's response been from the Penn State side as soon as he flipped? Was it, oh, well, we just, we didn't need 2 quarterback? Like what, or is it like, oh, this actually kind of hurts our class a little bit? Like what's the Penn State fans' reaction to this news?
The fan reaction was completely shocked, just like all of us.
Sure.
But for negative reasons, because he's an in-state Pennsylvania guy. It is the athletic. He's just purely a good football player. Whether people saw him as a QB or as a tight end, he's just purely a great football player. You will see that by watching his high school film.
Yeah.
But then it started to settle in that, well, he was never a QB anyway, so what does it matter? What does this one matter? Because he was never going to play quarterback at the end of the day. And I see it as a true loss because of that upside. If you can tap into his potential, as difficult as that might be, he can really be a game-changing type of player just because of that dual threat capability. But it's the arm strength. It's all the things that you truly can't teach, the God-given ability that he has. But what you have to teach, just be prepared that this is a 3, potentially a 4-year plan with him.
Do you think he knows that as a recruit? Do you think he knows that he's kind of a project and it's like, hey, it's going to take time for you to be a starting P4 quarterback? Because from a timing standpoint, that's really the perfect case scenario for Auburn because they have 5-star Deuce Knight as a true freshman right now.
You would hope so. I think there was a little bit of a reality check with the Elite 11. He went through the showcase and didn't get invited to the final. And then there were some scouts that were kind of saying that, hey, he really does have great athleticism, the arm strength, the ball just flies out of his hand. Yeah. His mechanics need a lot of work. Right. When he's throwing against air, as the saying goes, it's easy to throw against air, but when you started to throw in a little resistance, that's kind of when things would break down, the mechanics, decision-making, things like that. So he certainly does have a long way to go.
Yeah. Zach Seyko, I'm Zac Blackerby. Let's touch into other aspects of this. What does it mean for the future of Penn State's quarterback situation? What does it mean for the future of Auburn's quarterback situation? All that's coming up right here on this crossover edition of Locked on Auburn and Locked on Nittany Lions. Seyko, today's show brought to you by our friends at GameTime. Can you imagine buying a ticket to anything, anywhere other than with our friends at GameTime?
No, and I've used GameTime before, so I know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, whether it's the all-in pricing, which I love. No feeds are going to sneak up on you at the end as long as that's turned on. The view from your seat, especially if you're buying at a venue you're not super familiar with, it's great. It's great. Buying tickets should be fun because it's all about the fun that you're going to have at the event, and GameTime realizes that. Take the guesswork out of all of it. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. It's a crossover edition of Locked on Auburn, Locked on Nittany Lions. Zac Blackerby, Zac Seyko here with you. So obviously Drew Aller, getting potential first-round draft buzz, quarterback at Penn State. What's the plan after him? Does that impact Falzone's decision at all, do you think? Is that a part of this, or is it more about maybe the fact that there's another quarterback already there and maybe he felt like Penn State was more in on him and I could be the guy in Auburn's recruiting class? Like how does that impact this?
It impacts the long-term outlook. It's not ideal.
Okay.
Penn State. Oh, well, Penn State has a second QB. They had another QB already, so they'll be fine. They're going to lose 2 quarterbacks probably over this next cycle between Drew Aller to the NFL draft and just being out of eligibility. And then they're going to have a QB battle going into the spring. And then because of the transfer portal, you're going to lose one of them. That battle is going to be solved. And from what we saw with Penn State and Bo Pribula is now in the SEC at Missouri.
Right.
This is going to be an instance where Penn State's probably going to make a decision rather quickly so that QB can have the opportunity to go into the portal, find another landing spot. And that's just going to be interesting across college football. Somebody that didn't get the starting QB job, whether that's in Power 4, because I think at the end of the day, one of those guys probably won't end up in the Big Ten and the SEC between Jackson Smolik and Ethan Grunkemeyer, but they could land in the Big 12, they could land in the ACC, and then go compete for another starting quarterback battle or be handed the keys to the job.
Yeah, you referred to NIL at the start of this, which totally makes sense. In today's age of college football, I mean, not all positions cost the same. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. I mean, we see that in every other sport, literally all of them. Quarterback is the most expensive one. Do you think the day and age of having 2 elite quarterbacks in the class, that's done? Like that's pretty impressive that you even had that to begin with, in my opinion. But from an expense standpoint, you got to question, like, is it even worth that?
Well, that's just it. I mean, it's not only you show how much resistance Penn State had because it was so quick. We normally see these recruitments go back and forth because they're, whether it's a bidding war or just, hey, there's this financial offer, I got to reconsider. Do you notice how there was just no hesitation? Again, usually we get, hey, something's in the works.
All the quotes from him in the Auburn stories were from national reporters. Tom Loy, the national 247 guy. It was not from, he didn't talk to anybody local that I've seen.
Yeah. So Penn State's NIL offer, whatever it was, clearly wasn't enough to make Peyton Falzone even second guess. That's what I mean. It's not like this took it. Maybe there was a 24, 48 hour, just him and Auburn, where he said, hey, this is what's waiting for you with the Tigers. Do you want to take it? He probably kept it to himself and said, you know what, man, I really got to consider that. But it was the lack of hesitation. There was no second guessing. He's like, I'm all in on Auburn, War Eagle, man.
Yeah. How did you, you talk a ton of recruiting on Locked On Nittany Lions. Like, how did you discuss having 2 quarterbacks in the class? Like, what was that dynamic like when you broke all of this down?
I was surprising at first because I didn't think they would get a second QB. If they were going to take Falzone at the time, it was because they wanted him or they were going to settle on tight end. And he can be that. If it doesn't work out at Auburn and they're able to, maybe he likes it there, could he end up in the transfer portal? Anybody could end up in the transfer portal these days. Anybody could end up flipping these days with the right phone calls, as we see. Falzone, when he joined, it was the first thing I initially said was it's going to be difficult keeping 2 quarterbacks. And I would not be surprised if the kid from California who's committed to Penn State would end up flipping. Little did I know it was going to be the in-state guy. That's
what's so surprising to me. I mean, Auburn doesn't recruit Pennsylvania much at all, but especially quarterbacks. And then to flip the in-state kid, that's just, I don't know. I mean, it adds to the shock factor. I don't think there's any other way to spin it. But yeah, it is odd, this series now. I talked about this a little bit yesterday, Seyko, like the Alvin Henderson thing, which you said correct. Like, I don't think anybody really bought that when he did commit to Penn State. And then like the Keandre Lambert-Smith thing. I don't know. It's just kind of interesting, the tie between these 2 schools over the last 2 years.
I think that's with college football being nationalized. Totally. Penn State never recruited California, and now they have just a few prospects here and there, some interest. They're expanding out. You're just seeing more teams. I mean, Missouri took Bo Pribula in the transfer portal, and then they took the top quarterback in Pennsylvania the last cycle. So there are these different SEC teams that are starting to just go directly, not even regionally, just directly into Pennsylvania. Well, we want him, or we want to try to recruit him. And it is kind of annoying when Penn State already has a handful with Notre Dame and Ohio State and Michigan, just to name a few. But then you always have on the other side, an SEC team just kind of waiting it's really kind of waiting in the weeds and then ready to go when they see a moment's notice.
Yeah. For the Auburn folks watching, Seyko, what's maybe something that you think they should know about Peyton Falzone that we haven't talked about?
I'd say work ethic. I mean, the guy's determined to be a quarterback, so that's why I always thought that Falzone, maybe he doesn't hit this maximum potential, the ceiling where he would be a first, like truly because of the athleticism, because of what his QB coach has said about him, just being one of the most gifted athletes he's ever met. The ceiling is first round quarterback.
Sure.
But getting there is going to take a lot of work, but he's willing to put it in. So today, hey, this is a questionable move, or we don't, we'll be a little hesitant. We won't put all of our chips in here. That's fine. You have a 5-star quarterback before him. But if he's willing to be patient, develop a rapport, and be committed to Auburn all the way through, but that's where it is a little questionable. It was Virginia Tech, and then it was Penn State, and then it was Auburn. So even if he does develop, does he see an opportunity to capitalize on that development and go start as opposed to waiting behind Deuce Knight? There's a very good chance of that just because of what we've seen. Actions speak louder than words, but in that action, I think he will develop. I think he's only going to get better, and he can always fall back on that athleticism. He'll be an insane dual threat quarterback. How good of a passer he is, that is yet to be determined.
Zac, Seyko, for all the Auburn folks watching, if they want more Penn State coverage and more of you, where can they get it?
At Locked On Nittany Lions, same as you on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, to be the daily source for all things Penn State as you are with Auburn.
Yep. And of course, Locked On Auburn, Locked On Nittany Lions, all available in the same places. So please subscribe and check us out on audio and leave us reviews. Helps our shows out a ton. Till next time, for Zac, Seyko of Locked On Nittany Lions, I'm Zac Blackerby of Locked On Auburn. This has been a crossover brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network.